What's up, SAT test takers? Laura Whitmore here, founder of Strategic Test Prep. And in this video today, I'm going to help you get that final push to the November SAT that's coming up this weekend. This video is jam-packed with more last-minute tips than I've ever done before. 24 tips. I'm going to cover performance, math tips, English tips, all that good stuff. I'm so excited, so stick around because I have a bonus tip at the end of this video that is definitely going to help you guys get ready. First, if you're new to my channel or you're returning, only 18% of you subscribed to this channel over the past month. Guys, I beg and plead with you, please subscribe to this channel. If I've helped you in any way get ready for the SAT, it's really going to show us support and it's going to help me churning out the best possible content I can because I come out with videos every single week to help you master the SAT. So it doesn't cost you anything. Pretty please just hit that subscribe button below. I'm so thankful for you. Thank you guys so much. Second, I want to hear from you guys. So please comment below. Let me know what your goal is on the November SAT and what you've done so far to prepare. All right, guys, before we get into these last minute tips, this video is brought to you by Preply, the digital SAT prep app that's designed for daily practice to help you get that final push to your test. If you've run out of practice questions, or if you're on your phone all the time and you like the idea of doing a little bit of practice each day and not having to do a full test every time you sit down, Preply is the perfect app. You have over 1,000 questions in the palm of your hand, both in English and in math. So we've helped tons and tons of students increase their score by using this app. You could be next. I will link up here to Preply. Go grab that and get that final push in before November. All right, let's talk about general tips to reduce anxiety. So I want you guys to feel confident going into this test. It's a psychological battle as much as it is knowing the content. So what I would say is make sure you have a really strong practice before you go in there. I golf, and when I go to the driving range, I hate to end with the last shot being a terrible hit. So I make sure that I really connected the ball, hit it straight, hit it far, and that makes me feel good walking away from the driving range. Same goes for the SAT. You want to have a home run practice where you feel really good, you hit your goal score. So make sure you do one final practice test that makes you feel good and lifts your spirits before you go into the test. All right, the next thing I would say is pick out your clothes and put them out the night before. The more you can do the night before, the less stressed and rushed you're going to feel the morning of. What I would recommend is that you dress in layers because you don't know if the room is going to be hot or cold or somewhere in between. So you can always take things off to make sure that you're super comfortable in the room because I don't want you to have any distractions because of the environmental conditions. So just get your outfit ready to go and make sure you dress in layers. Okay, along the same lines, you want to put your device on the charger the night before and make sure it's fully charged. Because you don't know where the outlets are going to be in the test. You don't know if you'll be able to plug your device in from where you're sitting. So I don't want you to stress a low battery device the day of the test. So just charge it the night before. All right, this is kind of obvious, but self-care is important. So make sure you get a good night's sleep the night before. Now, if you typically stay up till 2 in the morning, and then all of a sudden the night before the test, you're trying to go to bed at 10 p.m., that's not going to work. What you're going to need to do is adjust your sleep schedule earlier in the week. So get up early one morning. You might not feel great that whole day. You're going to be really tired. So you'll go to bed early and feel awake and refreshed the day of the test. All right, last thing to reduce anxiety, I would say get up early and do some light exercise. Your brain and body are connected. So if you get up early, like say 6 a.m., it gives you some time to wake up. Do something easy like yoga where you're stretching and you're getting loose so that you feel so much better going into the test. Take a walk. I mean, do something, guys. Get your body moving, get your blood circulating, and then that's going to help your brain feel awake and refreshed and ready to go. All right, let's talk about performance tips. So in the parking lot ahead of the test, I want you to do a warm-up set. I just created a brand new warm-up set. It's comprised of easy English questions and easy math questions, and it's designed to just get you warmed up because your brain is a muscle. So just like you get ready for a big game by running around the field or stretching, you're gonna get ready for the big test by doing this warm-up set in the parking lot. There are no answers to this warm-up set on purpose because you can't look up the right answers in the test, so be confident with the answers you select. I will link in the description to our warm-up set so you can use that on test day. All right, another performance tip. Bring a sugary snack to eat during the 10-minute break. Yes, I know sugar isn't great for you, and typically I wouldn't recommend eating a candy bar. But you're going to feel tired after the English modules, and you need that quick boost to get you going for the math. And there's no better way to do that than get a temporary sugar rush. So yes, you might feel a little crappy after the test is over, but you want to perform at your optimum levels for the test. So I would recommend eating something high in sugar to push you through math module 1 and module 2. All right, this next tip is only for those of you out there that already are used to drinking caffeine. If you drink coffee or caffeinated beverages, bring one to the test and sip on it during the test. So I'm a caffeine drinker. I went to Starbucks and bought a nitro cold brew before the test because it was high in caffeine. I took a handful of sips before the test started and I kept it under my desk. And then after each module, I would take it out and take a few more sips. This gave me a low-level boost of caffeine to keep me focused throughout the test, and so it worked really well for me. If you've never had a caffeinated beverage before or you don't usually drink caffeine, I would not recommend doing this on test day because it could cause you to get the jitters or you don't know how you're going to react. So only do this if you're used to caffeinated beverages and you drink them quite consistently. All right, my fourth performance tip is to get up and stretch between modules. Sitting for extended periods of time can make people tired, myself included. So you're going to want to stand up and stretch and loosen up in between each module so that you get a little bit refreshed and ready to reboot. So definitely make sure that you're utilizing that time when you're done to just stand up and stretch. If the proctor gives you a weird look, don't worry about it. I don't think that, it goes against testing conditions, but you could always ask the proctor ahead of the test, do you mind if I stand up and stretch when I'm done, and find out what they say just to make sure that, nobody gives you a tough time about it. All right, my last performance tip is with scrap paper management. So you can actually get your scrap paper ready before the test so that your work is organized and you know where to find things. Let me show you guys what I mean. When you have a piece of scrap paper, okay, and you can do this before the test starts because there's a lot of, the proctor's gonna walk around, make sure everybody's device is connected, so there's a lot of downtime. Take your scrap paper and fold it in half widthwise, and then fold it in half again. And then fold it in half one more time. All right, when you open it, what's really nice is now your scrap paper has all of these boxes and they're all like evenly, neatly laid out where if you need to annotate on a reading passage, you can put the number up in the corner, write your notes. If you need to solve a math problem algebraically, you can put the number in the corner and write out your work. And you have both sides of the scrap paper to use. So if you end up flagging a question to come back to, you can find your work and your notes pretty easily and then go revisit what you did. So I definitely recommend scrap paper management to help you perform at optimum levels. All right, my last performance tip is to have a deep breathing technique handy in case you start feeling worked up or anxious during the test. So my go-to breathing technique is the 4-4-4 box method, which basically means you inhale for 4, you hold for 4, you exhale for 4. Do that 3 or 4 times, and that will bring you back to baseline so that you feel calmer and you're ready to focus again. All right, if you're finding this video helpful so far, show me some love, hit the like button below. All right, let's talk about English tips, guys. So my first English tip for you is to start at number 27 and work backwards, skipping the first 5 reading passages that you hit. So the logically completes the text and graph questions, they're a lot trickier. So once you hit your first reading passage, let's say it's number 14, you're going to skip 14, 13, 12, 11, and 10, and then start again with 9. Then work all the way down to the end, and then come back for those last 5 passages. What this does is it designs the English module so you're doing the easier questions first that are quicker, where you can gather your points, and then you're saving the hardest stuff that's the most time consuming, that's the hardest to get points on, for the end. Think of it this way. If I put you in front of an apple tree and I gave you a basket and I was holding a timer and I said, gather as many apples as you can in 1 minute. Are you going to lean a ladder up against the apple tree, climb all the way to the tippy top to grab that one apple at the top? No, you're going to go at the bottom. You're going to grab as many as you can and get the low-hanging fruit. I want you guys to get the low-hanging fruit. That's why I'm recommending starting at the end of the modules and working down the way I suggested. All right, tip number 2 for the English modules. I want you to find 3 wrong answers instead of 1 right answer on the reading passages. If you can find something wrong with 3 answers, you are going to be more apt to pick the correct answer versus a trap answer. So flip the script. Don't do what we usually do on multiple choice questions where we're just looking for the right answer, because College Board designs all the answer choices so they sound really good. So I'd rather you think critically and find something wrong with 3 of them. All right, tip number 3, don't read the notes and don't look at the graph. So when you get to a note-taking question or a graph question, a lot of the times you don't need the notes or you don't need the graph. It's just fluff. So start by reading the question, look for the claim or what you need to look for. Try to answer it without the notes or the graph. Only go to the notes and the graph if you go through the answer choices and more than one could be right, or they throw a bunch of data at you where you know then you need to go to the graph to look for the data. All right, my 4th English tip is to read the last sentence on the first set of passages from like number 5 to number 10. Unless it's a function of an underlined sentence passage, most of those passages work where you can just look at the last sentence and answer the question, because that's where the claim's at, that's where the argument's at, that's where the important stuff is at. So give it a try on your practice test, see how it goes. I'm telling you, it was a game changer for me, and I had so much extra time on Module 2 to devote to the harder reading passages at the end. All right, my 5th English tip is to only spend 20 to 30 seconds max on the words and context questions. Either you're going to know it or you don't. So please don't spend 2-3 minutes mulling over a word and context and going back and forth between the 2 answer choices when you're not sure. Commit to an answer and move on, because if you spend too long on words and context questions, you will run out of time before you get through the modules. All right, tip number 6 for English. I want you to use your scrap paper and annotate when you're getting lost. So a couple great annotations I use are T-charts, if I notice they're comparing 2 things, or timelines if they're giving lots of events and dates. So don't be afraid to draw stuff out on your scrap paper. If they talk about a correlation, like one thing goes up and the other thing goes down, draw arrows. Do what you need to do to keep track of the dense information in the passage. All right, my last English tip is if they ask you to weaken or undermine a claim, I want you to locate the claim and then write the opposite of the claim on your scrap paper. You want to find the opposite of what the claim is saying if it's a weakens the claim question. So when you write it down, then you'll know what to look for and it won't mess you up after you read the claim. All right, now on to my 5 last-minute math tips. My first tip for you is to make sure you write out all your work on the scrap paper. If you're on a geometry question, they talk about a shape and they don't give it to you, go to your scrap paper, draw the picture, start labeling stuff. The more you write on your scrap paper when it's needed, not when you're using DESMOS, but when it's needed for other types of problems where you need to solve by hand, the better off you're going to be. Try not to do all of the work up in your head. That's when you're going to make careless mistakes. My second math tip is to skip the geometry problems on Module 2 and save them for last. The geometry problems take more time. They're a little bit tougher to figure out. So you want to prioritize those dead last. Otherwise, you could get sucked into like a black hole and it's going to eat away your time. And next thing you know, you're running out before you get to all the questions. All right, my third last minute math tip is to use DESMOS when you have problems with constants in them. You can set a slider for the constant. If they're all constants and there's no x and y, you can run a regression. DESMOS is amazing when there are constants in the problem. It's something that your TI-84 really can't do. So make sure to use DESMOS for those types of problems as much as you possibly can. Now, as a disclaimer to that, not every problem that has constants in them is going to work for DESMOS. So I think it's important that you educate yourself on how to use DESMOS properly so you can identify the times when it's appropriate to use DESMOS and when it's not. And that's actually something we cover in our math self-paced course. We have a whole module devoted to DESMOS. So I'll link up here to that math self-paced course right now. Again, use the promo code 50 off at checkout and you can get $50 off the course. All right, my final math tip for you is on Module 1. If you have a ton of extra time, I want you to go back to number 1 and redo every single problem or as many problems as you can. Sometimes Module 1 is so easy, our brains go on autopilot and then we make silly mistakes. I don't want that for you. So instead of trying to check your work and look at your scrap paper to find errors, that's hard to do. It's passive. I'd rather you be active in catching the careless mistakes. And the best way to do that is to solve every problem twice. If the answers don't match, you know you did something wrong, and then you can really drill down and revisit it. All right, my last and final tip for you, bonus tip. If you get out of the test and you have a good sense of what you think you missed, you guys can head to Albert.io's digital SAT score calculator and get an estimate of what you would score on the test. So I have so many students say to me, oh, Laura, I think I missed 3 math problems and 4 English problems. What would I score? Well, you can get a good sense just doing that. Just plug in your numbers and it will spit out a score and it will give you a sense of what you probably landed on the test. All right, guys, that's it for the last minute tips. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, type cram in the comments below. Please note that we have an amazing tutor team and we do classes and crash courses and all sorts of different things to help students improve. So if you're interested in working with us, head to our website, strategictestprep.com, and book a consultation today. All right, guys, good luck on the tests on Saturday. Happy prepping.